In this deeply personal episode of ZeroDay Learner, I share the story of my parents and how their lives quietly shaped the person I am today. I never had the chance to know my father. He passed away when I was only a small child during the difficult years following the secret war in Laos. Everything I know about him comes from the stories my mother, relatives, and others shared with me. They remembered him as a kind man, a Hmong shaman, and someone who served others with sincerity. My mother raised my brother and me through war, hardship, and uncertainty. Her courage, patience, and quiet kindness gave us the chance to survive and begin a new life. Looking back, I realize that many of the values I hold today, love for family, gentleness, gratitude, and perseverance, may have grown from the example she lived every day. This episode is not about proving spiritual claims or asking anyone to believe my family stories. It is about remembering two people who shaped my life and reflecting on how our parents can influence us in ways we don't fully recognize until many years later. As for me, I continue searching for my own path. I respect my family's traditions, but I also believe each of us must live honestly, ask sincere questions, and become the person we are meant to be. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Thao. Welcome to ZeroDay Learner. Episode 6, Part 1. Between my father's spiritual world and my own search for meaning. Hello, my name is Thao. Welcome to ZeroDay Learner. Today's episode is different. For the first time, I want to share the story of my family. I wasn't old enough to remember these events for myself. My father, Thao, lived during the secret war in Laos. Everything I know about him comes from the stories my mother, relatives, and others shared with me. Not long after the war, he passed away when I was only about 2 or 3 years old. Because of that, I grew up without knowing him personally. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to sit beside him and simply ask him questions. But life didn't give me that opportunity. My mother told me that my father passed away while performing shamanic practice at his altar table, the Ruj Neeb. Others told me he was respected not only as a shaman, but also as a prophet. Some believed he had a gift that helped protect the people who served with him during the war. I cannot say what happened with certainty. These are the stories that were lovingly passed down to me. I carry them with respect because they are part of my family's history. I also learned that my father worked with Yang Shong Lu, the creator of the Hmong Paha writing system. People also told me that, for reasons I still do not fully understand, my father and our family were taken to General Vang Pao's farm near Vientiane. That is where I was born. When I think about these stories, I realize something. My father lived in a world very different from the one I live in today. His life was shaped by war, by uncertainty, by spiritual traditions, by responsibilities I can only imagine. My own life has been different. I grew up asking questions instead of inheriting his experiences firsthand. Perhaps that is why my search has taken a different path. I don't know whether I would have become the same person if my father had lived. No one can answer that question. But I do know this. Even though I never had the chance to know him, his story has quietly walked beside me throughout my life. In the next part, I'd like to share the story of my mother. Without her courage, I would not be here today. Episode 6, Part 2. Between my father's spiritual world and my own search for meaning. After my father passed away, life became even more difficult. The secret war had ended, and many Hmong families were trying to survive. My mother was suddenly left to raise her children alone. Everything I know about those days comes from the stories she shared with me. She told me that many families fled into the jungles to escape. She joined them. At that time, my older brother and I were still very young. We were too little to keep up with everyone else. My mother told me that sometimes she had to carry one child ahead, set him down in a safe place, then walk back to carry the other. She repeated this again and again. One child, then the other. One trip after another. Some people told her, quote, "You should leave the children behind and save yourself." Unquote. They believed there was no other way. My mother told me she couldn't do it. She loved us too much. She also told me that some parents, facing impossible choices, did leave their children behind, hoping to return later when it was safe. When they came back, some of the children had died. My mother remembered hearing that a few were found still holding bamboo shoots, trying to find something to eat. Whenever I think about that story, my heart becomes quiet. I don't judge those parents. I can't imagine the fear, hunger, and desperation they were living through. War forces people into impossible choices. One memory my mother shared has never left me. She said there came a moment when everyone else had moved on, and she was left alone with her two young sons. She was completely exhausted. She looked around at the silence of the jungle and thought, quote, "I wish one big bomb would fall on us now, so we could all die together." Unquote. When she first told me that, I didn't know what to say. Today, I hear something different. I don't hear hopelessness. I hear a mother who had reached the limits of her strength, but still refused to abandon her children. She carried us as far as she could. Because of her courage, I am here today. As I grew up, I began to notice something else about my mother. I cannot remember hearing her yell at us. Like many children, my brother and I were not always patient. There were times when we raised our voices or spoke to her in ways we shouldn't have. But she almost always answered us gently. Her voice stayed calm. Her words stayed kind. Looking back now, I wonder if surviving war changed the way she looked at life. When you have almost lost everything, perhaps you learn to treasure the simple gift of another day. I don't know if my mother has ever thought about it that way. But when I think of her, I don't just remember a woman who survived. I remember a woman who quietly appreciated life. She taught me that strength is not always loud. Sometimes strength is gentle. Sometimes strength is patience. Sometimes strength is choosing love again and again, even after life has been unimaginably difficult. When I think about my own life, I often ask what shaped me the most. Was it my father's spiritual world, or was it my mother's determination to keep her children alive? Perhaps both. One gave me a family history filled with questions. The other gave me the chance to grow up and ask them. Episode 6, Part 3. Between my father's spiritual world and my own search for meaning. As I grew older, I often felt different from other children. I wasn't someone who had many friends. Most of the time, I was quiet. I enjoyed being by myself. Looking back, I don't know why. Maybe I was simply born that way. Maybe my early life shaped me in ways I still don't fully understand. Even as a child, there were moments that stayed with me. Before falling asleep, I sometimes felt as though I were standing on a dry beach surrounded by jungles. I don't know why that image came to me. I don't know whether it was my imagination, a dream, or simply a memory my mind created. I only know that it stayed with me. I remember going fishing with other children. They caught fish. I didn't. I thought maybe I just wasn't very good at fishing. I came home without feeling upset. Life simply moved on. Later, my family crossed into Thailand. We lived there for several years before legally coming to the United States. Even after arriving in America, I still felt much the same. In Laos, in Thailand, and in the United States, I never felt like I had many friends. For a long time, I thought there was something unusual about me. Today, I think differently. Maybe I wasn't meant to spend my life following crowds. Maybe it was meant to spend more time observing, watching, listening, asking. Over the years, I found myself paying attention to small things. I watched how people treated one another. I wondered why traditions began. I wondered why religions believed different things. I became curious about cause and effect. One day, I watched a video about animals looking into mirrors. Several animals reacted with surprise. Then I watched a chimpanzee. At first it seemed startled. Then it picked up a small stick. The chimpanzee in the mirror held a small stick. Then it picked up a larger stick. The reflection held a larger stick. Finally, it carried a very large stick. The reflection did exactly the same. That simple moment stayed with me. It made me wonder, when we look at the world, how much are we discovering reality? And how much are we seeing ourselves reflected back? Perhaps our hopes, our fears, and even our beliefs are sometimes like that mirror. I don't know. Maybe behind the mirror, there is something beyond human understanding. Maybe there's only nature, or maybe nature itself is more mysterious than we realize. I continue to search. My father walked his own spiritual path. I walk mine. I don't think of myself as a prophet. I don't think I have special answers. I simply hope to become a person who makes sense of life as honestly as I can. A making sense spiritual person. Someone who respects the past, learns from the present, and remains open to whatever truth tomorrow may bring. That is why I created ZeroDay Learner. Not to tell people what they should believe, but to invite them to ask honest questions with me. Thank you for listening to my family story. If these conversations encourage you to pause and think about your own life, I'd be honored if you subscribe to ZeroDay Learner. I'm Thao. Until next time, take good care of yourself, take good care of your family, and never stop learning.